Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited because joining me today is a very special guest, Lisa T. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Demi. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I'm so excited you're joining me today to talk all about music and mindfulness. Before we dive into this, though, can you share with everyone about yourself and your musical journey so far?
Yeah, of course. I've always loved singing ever since I was younger. I actually started in musical theatre. I did a lot of shows growing up. And then people kept saying to me, "Oh, you've got a real country twang to your voice." And my dad's always played Irish country songs. He's plays the guitar and he sings. So I've grown up around that kind of music. So I just started to take an interest in it myself. And that's kind of the story of how I got into this genre. And then in terms of like the scene that I'm in at the moment, I've only really been on the scene for about a year. My very first open mic in Manchester was last summer at the Lion's Den, and that's when I met some people who are now friends, and I just really threw myself into it, I guess, over the last 12 months, and yeah, it's really exciting.
That's so awesome, and you've definitely grown so much over just a year, and you're doing fabulous, and I absolutely love all the music you're releasing, so congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you, Demi.
You're welcome. So, today we're talking all about music and mindfulness, which is something I know you're passionate about. So, I'm very excited to get into this. To start us off, I know you chose a very special quote to use. So, would you like to read that?
Yes, of course. So the quote that I chose is one that I've actually got it's on my wall. So I'm actually looking at it right now. I see it every day and it says, "What if I fall? Oh, but darling, what if you fly?" And it's got loads of little pictures of little birdies under it. So it's basically like a little bird saying to its mum, when it's trying to get out the nest, "What if I fall?" And the mum's saying, "Oh, but darling, what if you fly?" And it's so special to me because it's like you could just never take a risk. You could just sit comfortable in your nest and never move because you're scared that you might fall, but you might fly. So you've just got to do it. So yeah.
I love that. And in terms of the music industry, I feel like we all face that when we're first starting. We have this fear of not being able to succeed and this fear of failing. And it's that thing like you never know until you try. And so I feel like we've all faced that fear of falling, but not necessarily taking that chance until we find the strength to. So, in terms of mindfulness, let's look at this quote from this angle. And what's coming to my head is, you know, not taking a chance can be intertwined with negative self talk. And I think that as starting out artists and songwriters, we have those thoughts in our head all the time about wondering if we're good enough and if we're worth it and all those things. So, can you talk more about this angle?
Yeah, of course. So I think obviously, as I've said, music and singing is something that I've always been very passionate about, but I do have another passion as well, which is supporting people with their mental health. And at first, when I started really taking my singing seriously, I tried to keep them both a bit separate, I think. I wasn't really sure what people would think if they knew that as well as my music, I had like another job and, I'm a mindfulness teacher and everything like that. But I've suddenly realized through the industry really that actually the two are so closely linked, which is why I now obviously have the slogan Lisa T Music and Mindfulness. Um, and I think more than ever with everything that's happened in the world over the last couple of years really, we need to look after our mental well-being. And I think if anything, that's what this situation has made a lot of people realize, since we've all slowed down and we've had to sit with ourselves, whereas in the past we've rushed around and gone from thing to thing. I think we've all realized that actually our mental well-being is something that's so important. But yeah, I think music and mindfulness is so closely linked. So this quote, like you said, Demi, it's kind of screams out about your mental well-being. Are you good enough? Are you worthy? Do you believe in yourself? Because that's the starting point. You have to believe in yourself that you are worthy of flying before anyone else is going to believe in you. So yeah, I think it's definitely you can come at it from both angles.
I love that last point that you made because it's so true. Everybody says you have to believe in yourself before others can believe in you. And so I'm curious, do you have any tips or over your time exploring mindfulness and music as a link? How have you found to overcome that and find yourself in a better headspace in order to take on the music industry?
Oh, great question. How long have you got? So, yeah, I mean, I've got so many tips, really. Think like through my experience with mindfulness, through, my own struggles over the last few years, where I've had to do a lot of research and reading and learning what can help. Just to try and just sort of narrow it down to one. Well, if we're talking about self belief and being worthy, I'll stick with that angle for now. So something that I'm going to say now, it probably will sound really strange, but it's something that I believe we should be taught in school and that we should all do, but very few people actually even have this knowledge. So we often, when we pass a mirror every day, we will look in the mirror and we'll pick out our flaws. We'll say, oh, my skin's not very good, or oh, I'm starting to get wrinkles, or oh, I don't look very good. We never look in the mirror and say, look into our own eyes and say, I love you, or you're amazing, or you are powerful. And this is called mirror work, and it's the best possible thing I can suggest to anyone that needs self belief, self empowerment, self love, to feel worthy. We need to be looking at ourselves in the mirror and we need to be looking into our own eyes because that's the most powerful thing we can do. And we need to say something positive. And if the whole population did that every day, I think we'd be dealing with a population of very self secure, confident people, but we're not taught to do that for some reason.
Well, I think that's awesome. And that's something so small and simple. And it's like, it's so important to do that, I think. And the reason is because these positive thoughts, if you start saying them to yourself out loud, you're beautiful, you're awesome, I love you. After a period of time, I think those will start to replace the negative self talk. And until you do that enough, the negative self talk will continue to, overcome the positive. And I think it's so natural for all of us to automatically zoom in on the bad things or the things we don't like about ourselves. And especially in the music industry, when I started, if somebody had any kind of negative comment about my voice or my songwriting or something, it hit so hard. And that's literally all I could think about. And it still is to this day. Like, if somebody says something that I take to my heart and it really hurts me, then it sticks with me. And it's really hard for me to move past that. And so I think training ourselves to think positive, wake up in the morning, think something positive before jumping to the negativity.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, when you like when I'm looking at the research behind all of these tips and techniques, because they're not things that I've come up with. These are things that have been around for years. There's actually a book called Mirror Work, by an amazing lady called Louise Hay, and she really, in her book, she really explains the power of mirror work, why it's so important, why we should all be doing it, and how it completely rewires the neural pathways in our brain to do things like that. um, but yeah, I think another reason why it's so important is because we spend a lot of our life looking in the eyes of others. And when we're children, people, teachers, parents, whoever it may be, or authority figures, they look into your eyes as a small child and shout at you when you're being naughty. And we don't realize the long-term effects that has on us. And we think that because we've been told off as young children that we're wrong, or we're naughty, or we're not worthy, and those patterns actually stay with you until you change them. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. So it's so important, yeah, to do mirror work. and retrain those messages basically.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing, amazing tip. And shifting a little bit to the networking side of the industry, I think that takes a lot of mindfulness and thought in order to put yourself out there, network in an effective way. And also the whole thing of hearing no all the time. You're going to hear a bunch of no's before you hear yes. So, how have you found through your research and your own experiences of holding on to being mindful and positive during those experiences?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question actually. I mean, obviously, I'm really grateful with where I'm at the moment with my music. I'm really lucky that Nick Cantwell has signed me as his under his management, and he's been a great support, being welcomed into Bells and Gals and everything. So I am really, really grateful, and everything's going pretty well. But there have been recently a couple of times where I've heard no, like you say, and I can't pretend that through doing the mindfulness and the well-being work that it doesn't hurt, but I think it's just having the tools and the knowledge to know how to react when you hear no and when something like that happens. It's having a good support network around you as well. And it's understanding that just because somebody isn't a huge fan of that particular project, it doesn't mean that they don't like you as a person. It just means that their style is slightly different, perhaps, and they have got their own reasons why they're not a fan of that. And it also doesn't mean that the other people don't like it. I think what's important is you have to remember that that's, for example, in my recent experience, I've had two what you would call no's, but look at all the yeses I've had. I've had probably 200 yeses, and it's about focusing on that, and just like I've just said, just not taking it personally. I think as humans we're so defensive, and we automatically think it's an attack. If somebody says no to us, it means that they're attacking us, and we go on the defense, and we think, well, what about them? And that's our natural response. Whereas actually, if you just step back and you think it's not an attack, they're not saying they don't like you as a person, they're just saying no to this particular thing you're doing right now. And just reframing it, I suppose, in your own mind, and focusing on the good things that are going on. But it's not always that easy, I know.
That's a really great insight. And I think the point about not taking it personally is so true, especially because us artists and songwriters, the work that we're putting out is personal to us, and we really, really care a lot about it. And so if somebody has something not so nice to say about our work or says no, since they're saying no to something that is from our hearts, it kind of feels like a personal attack because it's so connected to us. But I think you have an amazing point that it's something that we all face. And, maybe it's not that project that was right. Maybe another one will hit. And so it's not this kind of overall feeling that, oh, they're completely shutting us down. We're terrible. Like, that's not what's happening. And I think we have to work past that. And another thing that you said kind of in passing that really jumped out at me was support. And I think that's huge for mental health because if you have supportive people around you who are always there to lift you up and reassure you and give you confidence, that really helps my mental health and my whole belief in myself. Because if you don't have anybody to do that, then there's no confirmation that what you're doing is good. But if you focus on those supportive people who are always there for you, that definitely helps you with your mental health, I think.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I 100% agree.
So now I want to talk about social media, which is a huge one. I personally found that it's really important to take breaks from time to time because there can be a lot of negativity on there. But at the same time, I've realized that social media is an extremely important tool for artists. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on social media and mindfulness.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I've got I guess a couple of things to say about social media. So the first thing is, we hear a lot lately about how social media can be really bad for our mental health. But I think it's like anything else, it depends how you use it. So for example, my two passions are music and well-being or spirituality. So I follow a lot of pages on Instagram that are musicians that I idolize and look up to, and then I follow a lot of like positive quotes and spiritual pages and well-being pages. So I think if you're following the right content and you're making sure that when you're on social media, you're using that time to learn or grow, then I think social media can be a really great tool. I don't think it's detrimental at all. It's just about making sure that what you're looking at and what you're taking in is beneficial and it's positive. If you're looking at celebrities in bikinis all day who have had, you know, loads of work done, then and you're comparing your body to their body, obviously you're going to come away feeling a bit rubbish. So I don't do that. You know, I think it just completely depends how you use your time on social media. But having said that, like you've just said, it is important to take breaks. Um, I do try and have social media break. Even just I try and have a break from my phone as well. You know, sometimes I try and go 24 hours without my phone at all, and it is difficult. You know, because you feel like you have to tell everyone, like your manager and your parents and your friends, like, right, I'm just having a break for 24 hours. Nothing's wrong. Don't worry. But it can really help to just ground you in the present moment and keep you focused on the now rather than like planning and booking in dates and gigs, you know, for things and stuff. So yeah, I think it's important to have a break as well.
That's awesome. So much great insight here as well. And I think for me personally, I try to, when I'm on social media, I try to get on, do what I have to do, and then get off. And I think when I first got social media back when I was in high school, especially Twitter, I would stay on there for hours, doom scrolling, going on all these pages, and it would get to the point where I was so sucked in and so controlled by everything on there that I was like, this is absolutely terrible for my mental health. What am I doing? I have to get off. And I think like lately, once I started really releasing music and taking my career more seriously, I kind of did what you said, control the content you have on there. I wiped my following list and I only have people on there who are, close friends or people in the industry, other artists. So everybody I'm following is putting positivity out there. And anytime I see something negative, I like will mute the account or like unfollow or something. And I've been super mindful of that because it got to the point a while ago where it was just absolutely terrible for me.
Yeah, really. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that, but it sounds like you've got a really good approach now. That's exactly what I would advise. Like do all the things you've just said, like monitoring it, being aware of it. They always say, don't they, awareness is the first step to change. So the minute you become aware of something impacting you positively or negatively, but the minute you become aware of it, you then have the power to decide what to do about it and if you want to make a change. So yeah, good for you for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely helped me a lot doing that. So now I want to talk about the artist's mindset. And this is huge because going into the industry, we can have all these various perceptions about what an artist is supposed to do and how they handle certain situations. And I think to be successful in the industry, you have to have certain attributes and personality traits that you harness in order to be successful, and some of those things come naturally to some of us, and for others those are things we have to work for to maintain a positive mindset and a healthy mindset. So can you share some qualities that you think all artists should work to have?
Oh, I've never been asked that question before. um, I think that's a really tricky question because, like you say, everyone is so different with their personality. Like some people are naturally extroverted and find it easy to stand on stage and, you know, make small talk, I suppose, between songs. And some people are a bit more introverted, so they find that side of things a bit more difficult. But I think talking on a more inner level rather than a an outer level, I'd say that the most important thing that every artist should aim for is self belief. Um, and it sounds so generic and it sounds so obvious and it's like, well, yeah, but how? And I think there's so many ways that you can start to believe in yourself and um, you know, it is true what they say. If you don't believe in yourself, it shows through. And then why would anyone else believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? And I think um, So that would definitely be something that I would recommend. And you can, I said before about mirror work, that's probably the best way. And I mentioned that book, if anyone listening is wanting to improve self confidence, self belief. The book is called Mirror Work by Louise Hay. Another thing that's really useful, this I actually shared this tip recently on BBC Radio Stoke because I do wellbeing tips every Monday for them. It's about understanding who you are as an artist and as a person. So one great thing you can do is you can write down how you want to be perceived. So write down 5 words. How do you want people to perceive you as an artist? So this is something I did myself actually a few months ago. And if you've got the word, for example, if you've got empowering written down, if you've got sassy, you might have upbeat. It will be different for everyone. But when you've got the 5 words that you want people to perceive you as written down, you can start to think, well, okay, how can I work towards that? That's what I want to get to. How can I work towards that? And that's your goal then. So that's really helpful. And then the very last thing, I was speaking to somebody recently who's quite well known in the country music scene. They've been around for years, and I was asking for some advice, some tips, and he said to me, I think it's really good that you've asked for help, and I'm always happy to help. But a lot of people don't ask, and they think that there's no help there. And I said to him, I said, well, as a new person on the scene, I have to understand that no one's going to come up to me and be like, hello, would you like any advice? But if I put myself out there and reach out to people who are well known and are successful and ask for advice or ask for support and help, I'm either going to get yes or a no. But if I don't ask, I'm definitely not going to get anywhere. So I think it's just about whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It's just about, I guess, putting yourself out there to speak to the people that you admire and ask them, for any advice that you might be looking for.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. So many like follow-up questions are exploding in my brain right now.
Sorry.
Fantastic. I want to first touch on what you said at the end, asking for help. That is absolutely huge because I feel like as artists and creatives and just, our kind of personality types in general, we think we have to do everything by ourselves all the time. And if we ask for questions, that means we're weak or that we're a failure and all these things. And I think like once you realize that you can ask questions, that takes such a weight off. And I think it relieves so much pressure. And, when I started asking questions, when I was confused and I went to people I trusted and was like, hey, like, how does this work? How do I do this? It takes the stress off. And I think, like the more stressed you are, the more strain on your mental health. And I think, realizing you can ask questions and you don't have to do everything alone is so important.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree. It really is. Yeah.
Another thing I want to highlight that you said is goal setting. And I think that's extremely important because there's a saying where, like, as humans, we want what we can't have. And when we get something, we, want to reach above. And it's like never being satisfied. And I think as creatives, having goals is really important. But like once you reach a certain goal, instead of, just looking above that and saying, well, I want this now, it's really important, I think, to allow yourself to feel pride and recognize how far you came. Because if you always aren't, feeling like that's good enough or I could do better, if you keep having those thoughts, then you're never going to feel good about what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. I think, you know, I've obviously done a lot of research into all of this and I like to think I've got a lot of knowledge, but I'm still learning. Like the self development journey, it's a lifelong journey. And recently, after my new single Baby Doll was released, I felt a little bit demotivated, to be honest, because I'd put everything into it for so long, like months and months and months, and not just me, my producer, my manager, my social media lady that helps me, like everyone had put so much into it, and then it was over, and it was like, oh, what happens now, kind of thing. But I think rather than just constantly pushing yourself for the next thing and feeling like you have to just keep going on to the next thing, you've got to allow yourself time to actually enjoy what you're doing. And like you say, look back at how far you've come and think, wow, I'm pretty awesome. I've just done that. That's pretty cool. Like, Yeah, it's definitely about just being kind to yourself and allowing yourself that time.
Exactly. Yeah, and like you said, you have to let yourself enjoy what you're doing. We're making music because we love music, we love recording, we love performing and writing. We're doing this because we enjoy it. And if we get so tied up in whether or not a song was as successful as we wanted it to be, or whether or not we reached a certain stream goal or press goal or whatever, if we set our standards so high and kind of forget about why we're doing this because we love music, then it kind of just starts to fall apart and we're not, as happy or excited anymore. And so I always try to take steps back and, look at my music and I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely love this song. And I'm putting it out because I love it. And if it hits, awesome. If not, well, I still love that song. And I think remembering that is so important.
Definitely, yeah, 100%. You have to come back to the root of why you're doing it in the first place, and that's usually because we love it. So that has to just remain true. Otherwise, again, it starts to show. You have to make sure that you're still in love with it. So yeah.
Now I want to touch on meditation. Have you done meditation yourself, and do you think this is something that artists should try out?
I don't like saying that people should do things because I do believe that everyone is different and different things work for different people. For me personally, I can only talk from my own experience. Meditation is something that has changed my life. It helps me to think more clearly. It helps me to dismiss thoughts more easily that I don't want to think about. And yeah, meditation has just been a real life changer for me. So I mean, my recommendation would be that it is useful. Obviously, I'm a mindfulness teacher, um, and mindfulness meditation is so so powerful. But yeah, I think it's different. Different things work for different people. But for me personally, and through the people that I've helped, meditation has been really really life changing. Yeah.
Awesome. I had a professor in college for one of my music courses, and she had us do mindfulness meditation at the beginning of each class. And before that, I hadn't done it. And then, literally, like after that class, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I have to continue to do this. Like, it really helped a lot, especially in, college, a stressful time. Doing that helped me stay grounded, especially in that class and before exams and things. And so I think, like, the music industry can be stressful at times. And even if it's not, actually doing meditation, just take time for yourself. Just, go somewhere where you're alone, go somewhere you enjoy being, a special place, and just take time to relax. And if your way of relaxing is reading a book or writing in a journal or watching a movie, like, I think it doesn't necessarily have to be meditation, just anything that makes you feel like you can relax and focus on yourself.
Yes, definitely. I think that's really 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 good advice.
Well, this conversation absolutely flew by. I cannot believe how quickly this went. But before we go, Lisa, can you share your final thoughts on music and mindfulness?
Yes, I think, as you've just kind of alluded to, I think musicians, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be the best we can be and to do the best we can. And I think music and mindfulness are so closely linked because mindfulness is basically just about being aware. That's all it is. That's literally what mindfulness is. It's just about being aware of the present moment. So I think sometimes it's important for musicians to step back on their musical journey and just be aware, whether it's of how they feel, how far they've come, what their next move is, rather than just go, 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 go. Just bring in some mindfulness into that musical journey. So, yes, for me, music and mindfulness are very, very closely linked, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to kind of do both, really. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, Demi. It's been lovely.
Of course, thank you so much for being here. This has been such an enlightening conversation. You have so many incredible things to say, so thank you so much for joining me. So, before we go, can you share with everyone where they can find you on social media and listen to your incredible music?
Yes, thank you. So on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, I am Lisa T Official 01. I share my music, I share some well-being and mindfulness stuff on those platforms. And on Facebook, I'm Lisa T Music. And on all the music platforms, Spotify, iTunes, etc., etc., I'm literally just Lisa T.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much again, Lisa, for joining me. Listeners, thank you for listening to this episode on music and mindfulness. And until next time, stay
Stay right
right
on
on
track.
track.